Good evening and welcome to the 16th session of Listen and Learn webinar series. So today we have Dr. Grishma with us. Dr. Grishma Nair is a consultant physician at Nirogam Ayurveda Wellness Center, Gurgaon. So she'll be talking to us regarding menstrual hygiene. So I think we are all excited to know about menstrual hygiene and because those are the things that we consider a taboo in our age, and we doesn't uh, dwell on all these things, and we don't talk about all these things. So welcome, Dr. Grishma, and thank you so much for accepting our invitation, and over to you. Unmute yourself, Grishma. I can't hear you.
Hi, thank you so much. I hope I am audible now.
Yes, yes, you
First
are
of all,
audible.
I would like to thank all my seniors, especially Sharat Etta, Jula Chechi, and Sujendra Prasad and everybody who have given me this opportunity so that I have I have a platform to present on certain issues that are not spoken otherwise. And thanks to everyone who have joined at this session live. I would like to share the presentation so that we sort of have something to refer to. So can you please allow me to share my screen?
Yes, yes, Grishma, you can share now.
Okay. So I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, yes.
Just sort of trying to make it a full screen actually. Okay, so this is Rishabhadri Ayurveda's Listen and Learn Series 16. And here we are going to talk about the menstrual hygiene. So let's see what are the points that will be covered in menstrual hygiene. So I can see a lot of women here who are mothers to teenage girls, and I can also see a lot of girls, women, medical practitioners. So I will make sure that this session will be a useful one, be it in having a conversation with the people or the girl child around you or in your clinical practice. So we are going to see what is menstrual hygiene. We this term might be new to someone, might be you might be thinking about something else regarding menstrual hygiene, but let us know today what the universal medical agencies or something, some body like WHO or UNICEF, what does it tell about menstrual hygiene? What is it? And what is the importance of menstrual hygiene for teenage girls? And also, not only teenage girls, let's also talk about women who are newly married or even adult women. What is the importance of menstrual hygiene for those people? And also the role of the family members or a community in contributing to menstrual hygiene of a lady. And the last, I'll be telling you about some simple do's and don'ts and how to maintain your menstrual hygiene. And also let's talk about some Ayurvedic home remedies and certain things that can be done on a regular basis. Now, moving forward, let's first understand what menstrual hygiene is. So menstrual hygiene actually includes a lot of things. It's not just being sanitized, or it's not just using a sanitary napkin. Menstrual hygiene includes several criteria. The first one being using safe menstrual absorbents. So when we talk about a menstrual absorbent, it can be anything that a person would be comfortable in. It could be a sanitary napkin, it could be a tampon, it could be a menstrual cup, uh, and access to sanitation and hygienic infrastructure. For example, for a girl or a woman to change her sanitary napkin or a tampon, there should be a proper infrastructure and a sanitized environment, be it a toilet or be it a private room where there is accessible to proper soap and clean water, etc., which is very mandatory, I would say. And also there should be access to hygienic disposal method. Now we have I know maybe at least in countries like India, we might have seen in some rural places, maybe the pads being thrown over the streets, and it has been dragged by animals, so which is not a pleasant sight to see. So access to hygienic disposal method and how to dispose menstrual absorbents, that is something that is very crucial, comes under menstrual hygiene, and let's also look about that. And also how to be informed and give trained support to girls and women in the community. So what is the role of the community? That also comes under the menstrual hygiene inclusion criteria. Now, a lot of people might be having this impression in mind that periods is equal to some pad, or some basic material, something like that. But I just want to put this point forward that just sanitary napkin is not just a menstrual fluid absorbent material. There are some others that have come into the market over the years, like there are tampons, there are menstrual cups, like I have picturized in this slide. Now moving forward, let's come to the real topic of how important it is for a teenage girl to follow menstrual hygiene, or what is the impact on a girl child. Now talking about teenage or an adolescent period, it is a transitioning period for everyone. Now for girls, just because they are getting into menarche and they get way more matured than men, and it lies in the age group nowadays between 10 to 19 years. Now talking about menstruation in those girls, in India a study says that only 1 in 2 girls have the knowledge about menstruation even before their first onset of period. So now there are 50% of the girls who are getting the first bleeding and wondering, what is it? Why am I bleeding? Or what is it coming out of my body? And they might be in a total fix. And we don't know their emotional condition as well. And also, the second most important thing is, even today, not only in Indian rural villages, but I also happen to see some articles from Ethiopia and Ukraine and several other countries where girls are still using coconut husk, using ashes, using rags to just collect the menstrual blood. And most of the times these rags are not even sun dried. They are just cleaned with some soap solution, or it is just dried indoors, and sort of the bacteria feeding over. And this is the same rag that they're going to use in the next period as well, or maybe in the next day, which might cause some reproductive tract infection. So it is very much important to educate a girl child on all this, so that it is better to prevent something that rather than being sorry at the end. And now while all these things are in play, now there are a lot of things that comes around a woman or a girl child even when she's growing in a family. So no girl child is just growing on by her own. She has her mother to her, contributing a lot to her life. There are sisters. So what can be a role of family members towards menstrual hygiene of a girl child? Now, the first thing that I would like to include, and maybe a lot of people can relate to it, is having mothers or sisters in the family, or even other family members who live with a girl child, who can directly influence the habits of a child. So how can a child learn? It's only from the elders that she is daily interacting with. And the next thing is, when we always talk about menstruation or periods, the male members of the family just shy away from this topic. They don't even want to talk about it or address it, or, maybe they are confused about it. So even fathers and brothers living in the same house has a lot of role playing in this, because, the girl is just living in the house. She might be going to a school, which is a co-ed school. She might be, having her tuition classes with other boys. And what if she starts bleeding? Or, we don't really know what is her physical status, what is her mental status, what is her emotional status when it comes to the first period, or consequent periods, even when she's a teenager. Now now a lot of fathers or brothers or even male members attending this meeting might have a question. Now what can be done, like what can we do? So the first thing that I would really suggest that a male member can do is at least participate and listen to what a girl child wants to say. Maybe she wants to share it to her father or a brother, or maybe the father and brother, they are the people who is taking the child to school or bringing the child back from school. So maybe they see a stain on her cloth, which is like very normal, but their behavior or their support as a term would impact the whole idea of menstruation that a girl child might have in that age. Now talking about school teachers and tuition teachers, so I mean, again, I wonder how much sex education or how much education on menstrual health is given in schools and colleges. But it is I would say it is an important role of a teacher or a faculty in school or a higher authority in school to make sure that even if a toilet is constructed in school, it has facility to sort of follow that menstrual hygiene methods, and it has a facility to properly dispose her pad or any other menstrual absorbent material. So there comes the role of the teachers and the higher authorities, etc. Even though places, I mean, also places of visit by children, like a child could be visiting an amusement park, or child could be visiting any other places of visit, like they might go for an industrial visit or something like that. So what is the menstrual hygiene practices that is followed in that area? What are the higher authorities could that also relates to a girl child's menstrual health and hygiene? Now let's see specifically on how we can each play a role. So now regarding the family, now the family advocating the use of sanitary napkins or tampons or cups, whatever is comfortable to the girl child. Only a family member can do that, because mostly when a girl child gets a period, it is the mother or the sister or maybe the granny that is what the girl child goes to. So advocating these types of usage of these types of materials. And also, if you see the family and the teachers, what they can do is communicating with the girl child, and you can train the girl child on what they can do at the onset of period, so that they are not puzzled. And even when they are in school, if a girl child gets a menstrual period, or what are the safe practices that they should have, like very simple, someone has to say that carry a pad, because they don't even know, they're new to all this, to simply put it forward. And also, what other things is that train with clean hygienic practices, right from washing, about what kind of cleaning agents they can use, what kind of soaps they can use, what are the agents that should not be used. So these are the things that initially from the teenage phase itself, which can be taught to a girl child. And also, why don't you teach your girl child that? Why don't you tell your child that? Why not this? Why not this? But I think we are missing somewhere a bigger picture on not training the boy child, because most often we have brothers and cousin brothers and who not. So train the boy child who is growing up with the girl child, so that he has the sense of responsibility of what the girl child is going through, and he will be able to emotionally support her. And if he is not able to emotionally support her, at least he is there for her. That mere presence would make a difference. And also a father's role. So yeah, fathers usually they shy away from all these topics. Now invoking an effective communication with the girl child, at least listening to them. Now, for example, having a case that a girl child is going to the father saying that I'm having these. So at least father can say, bridge, include that communication bridge, that okay, I can understand, maybe I'm not sure what to do, but at least I think your mother has gone through all this. Why don't we talk to her? Or maybe why don't we talk to so and so person like a school faculty, or why don't we talk to your elder sister, or why don't we talk to so and so doctors. Here doctors role comes in the at the last, because there are a lot of adult women going to a gynecologist or a doctor, but very few teenage girls who are going to a doctor. So that is the role of a family and a teacher and the community. So talking about a community, you and me are the community. So we are the primary basis of a community, and that's how a community grows. So making a period or making menstrual cycle very normal, not a taboo anymore. So while we say that something is a taboo, it is a taboo, and it is going to a taboo, even if it's 2050 or 2200, I don't know. But making it normal, that is what is very essential here. Now, bringing that pad which is wrapped with newspapers and keeping under the shelf where anybody can't see, that is not going to help anyways, and it was never been helping also. So these are certain small steps that would really be effective on a practical level. Now, moving forward, I would want to say what are some simple do's and don'ts which even an adult woman can follow, uh, a newly married woman can follow, or a girl child can follow, and even mothers especially. You can teach your girl child what to do and what not to do, maybe with a simple slide. So what to do is, now you wash, while washing the private parts, always use warm water to wash the private parts. So warm water itself, sort of cleanses a lot of bacteria or yeast that is present in the genital area. So washing with warm water is enough. Now a lot of people might have a question like, can I use soap to wash my genital areas, or can I use some intimate washes that are available in the market? So medically speaking, vagina itself has an acidic pH. The pH is less than 6. So when an organ has an acidic pH, then it is a self-cleansing organ. So if you apply something like a soap or an intimate wash, what happens is the pH of that area might change, and that itself would lead to some kind of infections or yeast growth or something like that. Or nonetheless, it might just lead to a dryness of the vagina in most of the cases. Now the second thing that I would like to really put forth here is changing of napkins. So I think a lot of people even know about it. It is better to change napkins every 6 to 7 hours, or if someone is using a tampon, between 5 to 6 hours, or if it's a menstrual cup, then whenever it gets filled according to the flow. Now also trimming the hairs in the genital region. Trimming is the minimum thing that they can do, and they can follow other methods according to whatever convenience that a child or a woman has. And also now talking about disposal of the menstrual pads. So menstrual pad is very easy to dispose. Just pack it in a newspaper or a polythene bag and just trash it. It's as simple as that. You don't have to flush it, or you don't have to just throw it over so that it attracts some scavengers like crows or dogs dragging it through the streets. And basic things that you can teach your children. Other thing is that carrying napkins while going to school, and not only going to school, maybe on a trip, or maybe they are going for visiting someone, visiting a family member. Always carrying a napkin is something that is very essential, just like people carry a lip gloss these days. So it is as essential as that. And also you can teach your child how to track a period. So these days we are all exposed to Android phones or iOS phones, which has this applications where you can put your period date and track it. So you can also teach your girl child on how to track it, so that they will be better prepared to get it, both emotionally, physically. And okay, maybe next month this date I have my period, and also I have my exam. What can I do? What are the precautions that I can take? These are certain things that are very crucial, plays an important role. And also taking showers daily might sound as silly as that, but in some parts of the world or the country where the winters are too high, sometimes people don't take showers maybe for a day or two. And I would say take showers twice every day. At least, wash your private parts every day, because maybe your, body is able to withstand in winters, but not your private parts. There is a lot of yeast growing there, bacteria growing there. So it is always better to clean it every day. And what not to do. So we have already covered certain things what not to do. I would like to just tell you two more points that we have missed out. One is not using perfumes or deodorants in that area, like soaps or like intimate washes. Perfumes and deodorants have a very high pH. Most of them has a basic pH, so which is more than 7. So that also causes dermatitis, that causes a lot of problems like itching, rashes, burning sensation. And sometimes the girl might actually feel that, okay, I'm getting my period and there is a smell of blood. Now what can I do? Let me use my perfume, which you can proactively tell them, which is okay to have that smell if at all there is any, and there's no requirement to use a perfume in that area, which is going to cause so and so problems. And always wash, using clean underwears and unwashed, not using these unwashed underwears, or repeatedly using these underwears. Some simple things, but still have to be put on a slide, because that is the importance of it here. Now the whatever we spoke about in the last slide is applicable for a teenager, is applicable for an adult woman or a newlywed or anybody. But specifically, there are certain things that an adult woman can do or an adult woman can follow. So as told earlier, tracking periods is very important, because at least in case that this is going to be my period date, and this is how I can be ready now, maybe for the next month or for the next trip. And tracking periods is very important for a newlywed, because sometimes a lot of people come with this problem these days, that they get pregnant but they don't even know, and they're already on the oral contraceptive pill, which might cause a lot of problems to the baby. So tracking period is very important. And washing themselves before and after sex, it is highly underrated but very important too. And because if even a partner has an infection, the other person is more likely to get it, because there is a physical contact. Now, and avoiding sexual activity during periods. Now, a lot of people might have several questions around it, several opinions around it. Let's go by what Ayurveda says, or at least I would go by what Ayurveda says. Or there are a lot of studies that I just went through in the internet. So what Ayurveda simply says is, just while a woman is on her periods, she is advised to sleep away from her husband, which indirectly put in an Indian way to avoid sexual activity. Now, what a Pune-based study says is that a woman who involved in sexual activity during her menstrual cycle had 30% more chances to get a reproductive tract infection. Now here, a reproductive tract infection is not as simple as a urinary tract infection. Urinary tract infection is something where you get a mild infection of the urethra, or even the maybe it goes up to the bladder in most of the cases. But if your reproductive tract gets infected, then there is it might even lead to infertility. It could cause infection in the uterus, and it could cause infection in the fallopian tubes that might even travel to ovaries. So it is as important to note all these things. And also educate yourself or people around you, or even your children, about the yoga and exercise that they can do while they have a PMS, or even while they are on their periods, or when they have a cramp, something like that. So now there are a lot of opinions about yoga, and what poses to do, what not to do. I have just simply put 3 things that anybody can do even while on a period. So there are 3 poses, very simple. The first one is the Baddha Konasana, which is also called as the butterfly pose. It is just, sitting and then flapping both of your legs towards the ground. And the second one, which is a highly, which is slightly tweaked version of the first pose, which is called as the Supta Baddha Konasana. And the third one is the Chakki Chalanasana. So what these, I mean, there are technical definitions of what these poses do, especially these work on the Apana Vata, which is present in the uterus, yoni, and all that regions. But also it helps in handling your mood swings, your PMS, and your cramps. So just doing at least these three poses every day will help in a lot of things. I will specifically tell you what these are going to help with. So first thing is it'll ease your menstrual flow. For a lot of people, there might be just clotting, no proper flow, or at least in the first 2 days of their period, there is no proper flow. It really eases the menstrual flow. The second thing is that it prevents cramps. It prevents and controls, treats PCOD, PCOS, and also improves fertility. Now, we all know a lot about sanitary napkins because a lot of them in the market. I thought I'll just take a minute to tell you about the tampons or the menstrual cups, even in the next slide. So, talking about tampon looks something like this, as shown in the picture here, a finger shaped, it's a cotton pad that is made out with a small tail hanging outside. So tampon is placed inside, internally in the vaginal canal, and the tail should be hanging outside. And once inserted, it starts absorbing the menstrual blood. That is how it works. Now, a tampon also has to be changed frequently, like 4 to 6 hours, or depending upon the flow. And as and when it gets soaked, it has to be changed and should be discarded after a single use. So tampon is also something like a menstrual pad, but which does not give rashes maybe. And also tampons come in several sizes, just like your menstrual pad. So it is very essential for you to identify which size of tampon will work better for you. Now moving forward, sorry, can I continue? Okay, I am continuing. Yes. Now talking about the menstrual cup. Menstrual cup is a reusable product, and it has been gaining its popularity in the market now because of its eco-friendly nature and because it can hold more blood than any other methods. Now, menstrual cup looks something like this. It's a funnel shaped, it's flexible, it's made up of rubber sometimes or silicone, and it can be easily inserted into the vagina and it starts collecting or catching the menstrual fluid, as shown in the picture here in the right side of the slide. And certain things that one has to keep in mind is a cup should be inserted properly for it to be used in a very efficient way. And the second thing is that before each insertion, a cup should be emptied fully, if possible, washed properly, thoroughly. Any residual blood in the cup can lead to infections. And the last thing is that sterilizing the cup is very important. Sterilizing as in, before each menstrual cycle or even after a menstrual cycle, the cup can simply be boiled in water, or even add some Savlon to it or Dettol to it, whatever works for you. So that kind of sterilization is very helpful. And menstrual cups are can be used for at least 5 to 6 years if you purchase it once. So that is how efficient it is in terms of durability. So, there are several types of menstrual cups and several sizes it comes, and it is very essential for you to identify your size and to use the right cup. Otherwise, that also starts leaking. And I would, take a minute just to sum whatever we have spoken about for the last 30 minutes and what to do, what not to do, maybe in simple pictorial representation. So what to do is use unscented soaps and stay away from body washes, shampoos, lotions, etc. And the second thing is, what you can do is simply use your lukewarm water and clean from vagina to anus. That is very important. So how to clean your private area? Excuse me. So how to clean the private area? It has to be clean from vagina to anus. That is from the front to back. Why? Because anus is an area which has a lot of bacterial contamination or E. coli contamination. So just to prevent contamination of those bacteria or E. coli to the vagina, it has to be always cleaned from the front to back. And also, avoid perfumes, which we have already spoken, and The last thing is use a cotton cloth to really wipe it. Don't keep the area damp, because a damp area, be it your armpit, be it the groins, be it a private genitalia, causes a lot of infections. It is a breeding ground for a lot of microorganisms. So I would like to say a small home remedy, because I am sure a lot of people are suffering from a lot of things that we have already spoken. Like, some might get a period rash, some might get an allergy before menstruation or after, prolonged use of sanitary napkins. So or if there is any kind of infections, that there is something that you can readily go to, something like a Triphala Churna, which I think every one of us might have a stock in our household. So what to be done is, just take 3 to 5 grams of Triphala powder, and it can be boiled in a liter of water. Just cool it to lukewarm, and this water can be used for washing the private parts. And so what does this Triphala powder do? It treats and prevents the infection. So it arrests any kind of infectious secretions, any kind of even secretions from the urinary, from the reproductive tract. Also, not only as a prakshalana, not only used for washing, Triphala lep can also be used like a lepam. Like, mix it just with warm water and apply as a paste if there are any small wounds, small ulcers, or small rashes, even as a result of prolonged use of sanitary napkins. So that also is really effective. And always you can talk to a doctor, go to your gynec, and that is about my presentation. Now, if at all there are any questions, I would be very happy to take it. We have 8 more minutes.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Grishma. It was a very good presentation. It was very enlightening. And I'm sure it will help most of the, not all of the people who have attended this. So we'll go for the questions now.
Sure.
So first question is it better to do, is it good to do yoga at the time of menstruation? Like, do you advise
So,
yoga?
yeah, doing yoga really depends upon person to person. Some people are really do not have so much cramps and they can really do yoga. But even if there are cramps, even if there are PMS, before and after menstruation, I would really suggest, which also worked for me, so I would really suggest that you can do these 3 poses. Vouch on it gives results. So it is not a pain causing pose, or it is not a very difficult pose. It can be even done on a simple mat or even on your bed. So this can be done. At least the first 2 can be done by everyone.
Okay, thank you. The next one is uh, which one do you prefer? Like, what do you suggest for your patients? Which is best, pad or tampon or a cup?
So, I would really suggest a menstrual cup if someone is very comfortable with it. And if you are able to teach a child how to use it right from their first or second period, then nothing like that. But, also seeing, women going outside, children going to school, just go with whatever they are comfortable with. But if you can use a cup, then nothing like that, because going to an alternative eco-friendly option is something that is the need of the hour now.
And what do you suggest if people have infections in the genital area? Like, what home remedies and they can do?
Yeah, so regarding the home remedies, a lot of people gulp a lot of antibiotics as soon as they see an infection. That has to be stopped, because you use antibiotic and you get resistant to it, and next time when you take it, it doesn't work for you. Something that is very easy, simple, that can be done is the Triphala Prakshalana or Triphala water wash that I've told you. It works in 99% of the cases. And if the wound is a little bit big or has an ulcer or a like a boil, Triphala can be mixed with water, make a paste, and that also can be applied. Now there are other lot of things that a doctor might suggest you according to your vata pitta kapha status in the body. So I would say go to the doctor if Triphala powder does not work for you. Like, don't keep hanging on and don't allow the problem grow.
Okay. And do we need to educate a child about menstruation? When do we have to? Sorry, when do we have to educate a child regarding menstruation and?
Yeah, so these days, between 10 and 19 years, most of the girls get their first period between 12 and 13. So you might really know how your girl child's body is, they might develop a small breast, or they might develop a private hair in their private parts. So you might get those indications which you can really look for and start educating your girl child on that. But I would say somewhere between 11 to 13 years would be an ideal time to talk to them about it. Not maybe directly telling that maybe one day you will see blood, not as blunt as that, but at least educating them that certain changes are going to occur in your body, and which is okay, and you can talk to me if there's something abnormal. At least having some conversations like that.
Okay. So that's all. Other questions. So thanks again for your presentation. It was very good. It was very enlightening. So now I call upon Dr. Sharath for the vote of thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Ajala, for the invitation. And thank you, Grishma, for that wonderful presentation. Is it audible for?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Grishma, for that wonderful presentation. That was totally was a bold subject and which is relevant to the present scenario. Like everyone needs such an education, and I think you covered most of the topics, most of the parts on behalf of that the cycle, and how we have to look at the point, how we have to look after, and the total, it's a total package. That's what the one word which I need to tell. It was totally so was a nice presentation. Say total package of presentation, and I'd like to thank for accepting the request to present the subject. On behalf of everyone, I thank Dr. Grishma, and I'd like to thank Sri M.K. Shishnan Nair for creating such a space, and thank all the coordinators who coordinated the event to become this event success. Thank you everyone, and thank you, Grishma.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, everyone, for being in this session and making it really, with your questions and making it really live.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.